I'm going to do this one in the afternoon. I want to recap. I'm getting ready to go out in a minute. I want to recap just a few of the things that I was reading in the paper. A few things for preachers. I know a lot of preachers that believe that if you see injustice, injustice is primarily carried out in Scripture when you have government or those in authority that become corrupted. One of the things that upsets me is in the article I read yesterday on the District Attorney Mark Skirka. I had that article, but I think it's right here. It basically showed a history. These were cases, just came out in the paper yesterday, but these were cases where counselors that were at a children's home, I used to pass it up on the way to work in Kingsville, and it used to be a ministry, and eventually it became a children's thing. But with the prosecutor, DA Mark Skirka, withheld intentionally was evidence that there was a lot of problems with, they were in violation of, for instance, if you have children that maybe made a complaint, or maybe a wife or a mother with an ex-husband. It's very common. It's one of the biggest false accusations that you find is when people are going through divorce. It's one of the biggest false accusations. They say they molested my child. And so in the DA case, Mark Skirka, he withheld evidence. The man has committed crimes, but corruption in government, you don't just preach the gospel to those that are corrupt. The best example would be John the Baptist. When John the Baptist spoke to Herod, he did not just say, which his message was, he's the forerunner, he didn't just say, Jesus is coming. He also told Herod he was committing a sin, and he pointed the sin out, which was adultery with his brother Philip's wife. And many preachers, when they see injustice, they do not believe it is their job to speak out, and they are wrong on that. So I'm correcting that. This past week we had an incident you saw it on TV on World News, of some cops that released an attack dog on a black man. And you hear the man on video crying, screaming, and it was the wrong man. Now, even if it was the right man, why you would initially have dogs attack the man, but it was the wrong man. But when you have people do that, there's an arrogance that they get away with that. That there's an arrogance that they can do that and no big deal. And I've seen a lot of cases like that. When I speak on the Gaitan case, which there are many videos I have, if you go to my YouTube, I just probably could search Gaitan. I've talked about that a lot because I think that kid now has been in prison for maybe 8 months or so. But he came out in court, even through the judge admitting and everything, or reprimanding, that they lied on that kid. They lied. And they had officers that lied in that case. Now those officers and all the people that did that, every day, to them, they're like kids to me. They're still playing, not realizing that they committed a crime there, in the sense suborning perjury by a man by the name of Valent. Now, if you, as a civilian, hold somebody against their will, that's kidnapping. But what this man, Mark Skirka, has been doing is he figured let that kid stay in jail as long as he can. That's just one of the many cases where he did illegal activity. Now, he'll be out of office soon. But that was in collusion with officers. Not every cop, but the detectives that lied to Valent. There was a case I covered and said, we need you to say, you seen him? He said, I didn't see him. Okay, I seen him. There's a lot of lying done there. That's not slight. You pastors that have pray for the police, and I've seen some of you, and you mentioned that they have a sacred duty. But you need to also, when you see, if your child, if you're a black person, and you say, my job is just to preach the gospel, if your black child was being lynched, would you just preach the gospel while you stood next to that tree? Or would you do all you could to stop that? If you would do all you could to stop that, physically, and even speak against it. This lynching is wrong, and you in authority that are doing the lynching are wrong. If you would say that, which I hope you would, but yet you refuse to speak out on even that one issue I just mentioned, the black man this past week who was attacked by a dog, then you're not fulfilling your mission. You're not fulfilling it. There are many cases that I spoke about like this over the last couple of years. And a lot of those, as I'm putting videos on Facebook to get them up again, I'm not posting a lot of those. I'm just trying to stick with the teaching one. But what I wanted you to see today was there's an endemic problem. I just saw on the news when I was uploading those other videos. This should be the last one today, but I'm going to go somewhere in a little bit. Maybe there'll be another one. But as I was uploading, there was a murder at 2 or 1:30 in the morning. I didn't even know when I made the first video today. It said the murder rate has skyrocketed. I see a level of, because I know other things, because I have friends that have had a lot of years here. And the officers that are corrupt, trust me, there are some that are involved in criminal activity. You say, oh, John, we need evidence. They know it. They know it, okay? There was a sheriff in this area for many years. He was molesting boys in the jail. It's not Clayburgh County. It was another county. And everybody knew he was doing that. And then finally, somebody kept speaking out, and the man finally got removed. But he didn't face like the penalty for molesting underage children. This is a case. It's posted. It's known, okay? It was another county. So in this part of the country, I noticed there's a lot of new officers, rookies, what you call. I don't think they're familiar or they realize some of the problems here. Every day that Gaitan sits in jail, that one case, that's equal to kidnapping. Do you understand? Because you lied. You lied in court. You lied under oath. You lied being sworn. Oh, I'm doing a video. Okay. Let me finish. So that's an offense because you use false testimony to imprison a person. That would be equal to kidnapping, but you all don't see it that way, those of you that are involved in that. And as Mark Skirka finishes his time, he wants to enjoy his life, his food. He doesn't realize he's a criminal in the sense that he used false. The judges have rebuked this man. And his only hope is that even all the false convictions were in the sense that he withheld evidence purposely, which is a crime. He's just like rolling along. Like, we've been doing this for years here in South Texas type thing. So now when I see all of that and I realize that many of these men that are involved in that, to them, it's like some of my friends that many years were involved in all types of drug life and all. They become comfortable with it. They see it as something that, that's what they do. When you have that in law enforcement, or you have that in prosecutors and so forth, that's criminal. That's criminal. So, you don't have any, my advice would be, I'm a citizen here. Don't approach me unless you have cause to approach me. I reported one of your officers tried to run my vehicle off the road. You laugh at that. And you know that happened. I've reported that multiple times. That was 3 years ago. Committing crimes. I don't want to go into all this now. And you guys laugh. I know you do. Because to you it's like, we've been doing this for years out here. So don't, unless you have cause, do not approach me. Do not approach me. When my friend told me you told her that John's walking around carrying a weapon, how dare you lie like that? Paul said that their mouths are open graves. You say, oh, John, that was just one mistake we made. No, I just gave you the case of the Judge Guy Williams telling the same D.A. Skirka, you have a whole history of false imprisonment, withholding evidence, colluding with witnesses, and you use detectives within the PD, at least in the Gaetan case. An absolute lie. And when you lie to put people, Judge Guy Williams, when he rebuked the prosecutor just this last day or two, he said, you expect me to send a man to prison for life or whatever based upon a quick 16-minute interview? Because there are rules that you use when you interview in cases of, maybe a mother says, the wife says, oh, my ex molested the child. And he basically said that the courts here, the prosecutor and DA, they violated all those rules. And they said all those cases now are going to have to be overturned. But Mark Skirka's concern is let people sit in there as long as they can. And that's just one case out of many. And this is now a whole history of it here. So every day, just like if you were to falsely or kidnap a person, that's how in the eyes of God that's viewed. Withholding people. So remember the John the Baptist thing. Remember that. He said to Herod, and Herod was, according to Paul in Romans, which many of you preachers use, Herod was the one that had that seat of authority because it was God-given. That didn't prevent John the Baptist from saying to Herod, you're sinning. You're committing a crime, Herod. He didn't sit around with him and just pray with them and say, what a sacred ministry or duty you have. He also spoke and said, that's wicked what you're doing. I was upset about the dog attacking that black man. It was on video this week. Because that black man got out of his car, he was just living his life, and that dog was tearing that man up. You see, do officers laugh? But you bet they laugh. Not all of them. Many of them do. And many of them use the word nigger. Because we had a black air traffic controller that was working at the base in NAS Kingsville, where I used to be stationed. He gave that testimony here at a forum, Corpus Christi, that an officer pulled him over, waited for him to get on the highway, refused to give his name, violated every law, and called him the black man that gave the testimony. The caller time said a racial slur. So he basically said, nigger, you're a nigger. You're less than human in our eyes. Now, what happened to that officer, John? He's going strong. There was no repercussion on that officer. Okay? That was in the corpus caller. And you preachers, you say, oh, I'm never going to speak out. If it was your child, you'd speak out. Okay? So I have no belief that they fixed things here, especially after today. For you younger cops, I don't know if you, some you're like kids actually. Your badge, and it's not to approach citizens. If I'm in a public park I don't drink. Unless it's a crime to smoke. Maybe you'd get a ticket for littering. You wouldn't get arrested for throwing a cigarette butt. You would get some type of ticket. So you don't, stay away from me. Stay away from me. You spent a lot of time when I was sitting there at the parking last month, pulling up there every day. If you have issues with those guys drinking, I understand that. I don't condone their drinking. But just stay away from me. You have so much going on in this city. And you would have all that time. Don't lie. Don't go around saying to people I know, do you know that guy's carrying a gun? What do you lie for? You lied in testimony and got town case suborn. You guys are wicked that are doing that. You're wicked. You say, John, but I'm an officer and I'm a Christian. If you're not there lying, then may God bless you. But the others that are engaged in that, and I heard about another crime just yesterday. I won't talk about that one. But it's in the field that I'm familiar with. I was surprised. But it also showed me that they don't, some of them openly, flagrantly violate the law. So, just, unless you have cause, you say, well, we can walk up to anybody and ask their ID. I do understand that. But you have a lot of work to do in this city. First, start with stop committing crimes. And then the murder last night at 2 a.m. Try to solve that. If you have another shooting on Ocean Drive, try to send officers, not a rookie. You put that woman's life at risk, Mr. Markle. I don't think the public realizes that our department is this Corpus Christi Police Department is way below the standard, okay? I didn't repost all those. The second most corrupt county in the United States of America, ranked the second most corrupt. And then in Texas, it was considered either the first or second most violent city for crime. And I remember an officer, Hooper, tried to challenge that because the media reported that. So the Corpus Christi Police Department, I'm sure there are good people that work there. But just my little experience pulling up the last month when I was there at the park. Pulling up like, don't you have stuff to do? You're not at the station. I went to both of your stations today. I thought I would get in at both of them. I thought you changed that. This Flower Bluff police station, I thought you changed that by now. Because people have complained that they were unable to find an officer when they knocked. You still are that way. And not only, now you're doing that at the main station, because there was a thing on the door that said, if you have like municipal tickets, say if somebody needs to speak to an officer, how much money your salaries are. I'm familiar with collective bargaining, but you guys are making way too much money for the way the department is run. The department is not being run correctly, okay? Just those few little incidents I showed you today. The little vehicle on the, look, you have to, when you have a car wreck, an officer or a fire department stays on scene until the tow truck, the way Kingsville did it was we had contracts that rotated on a monthly basis, and whatever tow truck was on duty that night, look, that tow truck was there within 20 minutes of the wreck. We clean up the street. I've seen they operate here that way below standard. For the Corpus Christi is about 300 and something thousand. Kingsville is about 1/10, 30,000. And I'm just telling you, the Kingsville Police Department, they knew how to do it. In most cities in Texas, Corpus Christi is way below standard in the police department. Okay? And that's just a fact. Believe me, that's just a fact. So I'll end it on this one, but just stay away from me. You say, that's not a threat. Just stay away from me. Just go. If you have people that you have warrants, you spend about every day, when I was up there, just about every day parking next to my vehicle, then finally coming up, let's make them pick up the butts. And one of the other homeless people said when they were walking back, they go to the liquor store, and then they walk there, back. They said there was the cop sitting with his binoculars looking at me. I'm assuming they were, let's see if he drinks. Let me say, to sit in a park and smoke, and then to get threatened with you're going to be arrested with criminal trespass. You're criminals. I just gave you criminality that came out in the paper. Your detectives lied and suborned perjury by Valent. You have a history of this here. And you laugh your asses off. That kid's sitting in jail every day. The Hannah Overton case. I posted all those. Those of you that see these on YouTube, just search for Hannah Overton. There was so much corruption and criminality. You need to be held accountable for all of that. Skirk is out. But all of the crimes you committed by withholding testimony, Guy Williams just rebuked you for that. Judges are rebuking you for that. Say, but John, we're going to have a new DA. Yes, but the people that are in prison, knowing that these guys lied, that's criminal. That's equal to kidnapping, withholding somebody illegally. You don't see it that way. I believe you view I think you guys see it here as a game. I don't see you taking your job seriously at all. Today, if I wanted an officer, I would have probably found one at Church Unlimited because they're there making money. They're there off duty in uniform, which is fine, making money for a civilian, security firm. But you could not find one on the streets today. Matter of fact, I didn't see a single, except on the videos where I videoed there at the police department, I didn't see a single cop car today either. Look, you're supposed to be on, I know they're on duty, they must be. We had a 30-man fire department, 10 guys or 8 guys per shift normally on duty, and that made no difference whether it was Thanksgiving, Christmas, Sunday. You have a certain amount. I really do think that I couldn't recommend anybody to move to Corpus Christi. I'm going to say that in all the level here, the closer you get to Mexico. Mexico cops get away with a lot of stuff. Criminality, drug dealing. Okay, so we'll end it. This will be for now. I'm going to go somewhere in a few minutes. God bless everybody.